Right, so here's a course editor that is loading a particular course based on the ID that we're passing along in the path. Right, it's using a find to retrieve that. Ideally, this would belong to a service. For that, we'll introduce the singleton pattern in a bit, and it would retrieve this from that service. And ideally, this would go out to some server and retrieve all this data from some RESTful service, which we haven't covered just yet. We'll get to that a little later. But for now, we have the course. Presumably that course contains modules, lessons, topics, everything inside of that course. So what I'd like to be able to do is having these modules, we can pass it down to the module list and say, hey, render for me all these modules. Right? Where are they? They are in the current state, in the current course. I'll pass in the module, the modules, right? And once I'm down there, right? Oops. In the module list, notice that we had a hard-coded array of modules here. I don't want this to be hard-coded. Instead, I want this, a dynamic set of modules based on which course I'm editing. Yes. All right. So let's take a look at that. Instead of this being hard-coded, right now I'm always rendering the same three courses, right? These three: chemistry, economics, and quantum physics. Right? This very eclectic list of modules. Ideally, now this is being passed to us from a parent above, right? That as it navigates between the various data. So what we're going to do here is that the modules is being passed to in a property called modules. Right, so we need to receive these as properties in our component. We can say that the properties are being passed here. I'm going to paste them there, and the modules are actually going to be equal to what? Instead of this hard-coded list, let's comment that out. Notice that if we comment that out, there's an empty array. If we do that, notice that indeed I'm not rendering any modules here. See that? Right, but presumably I'm passing them down from the parent. So to retrieve that from the parent, we can say that this is from the properties. This properties modules, which presumably it's the array that is being passed on from the parent. Right, and indeed notice that it's Scrum. See that Scrum? Right, that's from the course, the new 5200 course. I mean, the 5500 course that has indeed a module called Scrum. If we'll go to 1, 2, 3, notice that the modules are organized in weeks, week 1 or week 2. Or if I navigate back to 5500, notice that it loads the modules for Scrum. See that? Now the content is now dependent on what is being passed to me in the path. It's parameterized, right? It's not always the same, right? Makes sense? So if I go to grid, right, and I go down to 5610, I get the modules for for that particular course, or if I navigate to 5500, I get the modules for Scrum for that particular course. See that? So it's dynamic in the sense that the parent is drilling down the content down. Yes. You have a question?